Es ist schweinekalt, es ist windig und es riecht penetrant nach Fisch. Richtig, liebe Leute, wir sind in Hamburg. Wir wurden nämlich eingeladen, uns BioShock Infinite anzugucken, und zwar da oben im 23. Stock, quasi in der Wolkenhöhe, da wo auch BioShock Infinite stattfindet, werden wir jetzt die finale Version anzocken und mit Entwickler Shawn Robertson ein kleines Interview führen. Ich freue mich mächtig, vor allem wenn es gleich warm wird. Uah. So you've been working on this game for 4 years now?
Yes.
Yeah, you told me before. And you left the underwater world of Rapture from the first BioShock just to ascend to the skies. So it's a complete different setting.
Yeah.
It's intentional, this change.
Yes, definitely. When we started working on BioShock Infinite, we didn't want to tell another story in Rapture. We had to ask ourselves internally, what makes a BioShock game a BioShock game? And we came up with 2 rules for ourselves internally that we looked at as a BioShock game. Number one is the sense of time and the sense of space that we want to put the player in. You know, the city is a character, whether it's Rapture or whether it's Columbia. The city has to have an air of mystery about it that the player wants to explore and really feels like they can immerse themselves in that place and that it's a believable space. The second rule that we came up with was that the player has a tool set that we provide to them, but we don't strictly tell them exactly how they have to use that tool set, whether it's your left-hand powers with plasmids in BioShock 1 and Vigors in BioShock Infinite, and your weapons, and that you can use those tools in a creative and combinatorial way to solve problems throughout the game.
Okay, I had the impression from the first hour that compared to the first BioShock, which was much more claustrophobic, it was more horror themed, It was more like survival, first-person shooting, at least a bit, that Infinite doesn't only have a lighter tone by all the light and the air and the space and the colors, but also it's less horror, it's more action. Is that impression right, or does it change throughout the game?
I don't want to give too much away on the narrative, bent there, but one of the things that we're looking at as we broke out of the ocean and wanted to bring in the light and bring in the sky is, how do you deal with themes like that, and how do you make it fresh and exciting? And again, going back to the air of mystery, how do you provide an air of mystery to the player as they're exploring their space? And you realize as you're developing it that putting things in the dark and putting things in shadow is a trick that you can use to make things, surprise the player, but it's not the only trick. And I don't want to go too deep into some of the things we have up our sleeve, but we like to, like I said, keep the player thinking, keep them moving forward. What's around that next corner? What mystery is drawing me forward, and how am I going to explore this space and learn more about what's happening?
What's happening in Colombia, that's the question of the game. We want to explore it in the game, but I had the impression that compared to the first BioShock, there are many more mature themes that are very rare in video games, like religious aspects, nationalism, racism, even the N-word. Well, I heard it at least once. Do you think it's time for video games to take these themes, to make them topics in video games?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question to answer, because not every video game, it's like saying that about movies, right? Like, should every movie deal with heavy topics, and should every video game deal with heavy topics? I can only really speak for our studio. And when we wanted to create the city of Columbia, like I said, we have to look at what's going on at the time. We're interested in 1900, 1912, that era, and you really have to take a cold, hard look at what was going on in America at the time, because it's an American city that had seceded from the nation, and racism, religion, politics, all that stuff is prominent. And even though it may not be a history that we're proud of, it's still a history that makes up what America was at that time. So it gives us a great canvas to tell this story on without just looking at the good stuff. It gives us more layers to give Columbia and make Columbia feel like it's more of a realistic city, because you have the beautiful things and you also have the not so beautiful things.
Okay, and you're taking the idea of a buddy system of like taking care for a character to a whole new level with this one compared to the previous parts. Elizabeth, here in the background, she's the one, she's hostage or whatever. We don't want to spoil anything, but we have to rescue her.
Yep.
And from a certain point in the game, you're going to be on tour together.
Yes.
Okay. So can you give us some examples for what does she contribute to the gameplay? Is she just a bystander for the story?
No, it was important to us that Elizabeth have her own voice and that it is not an escort mission. She's not somebody that you have to look out for, that you worry is going to be left behind if you don't, move slow enough, that she's really going to look out after herself. One of the things that we wanted her to be able to do is help the player in combat. But narratively, she's not. She's been locked in a tower her whole life. She doesn't know how to shoot a gun, and she may not want to shoot a gun because, for whatever reason. But she can throw you weapons when you're out of ammo. So she's adapting her behavior to the player and helping you out by being at the right place at the right time for the player. So it really, it's a system that happens. We don't plan for it. It just kind of organically happens in the game as you're making your way through.
When I look at this artwork and at the cover artwork of her and of the main character, I felt that she looks very, very different in the game, more comic-like, and here she almost looks like a real person.
Yeah.
So why there's this? What is this?
Well, this is actually Anna from Russia, who sent us a picture of herself, dressed as Elizabeth, after we released the demo, and we saw that the similarity was so dead on that we used her for a lot of the marketing material.
So why didn't you put her in the game like this?
We wanted the Elizabeth in the game to have more expressive features because it lets the player see her expression better. When the player is moving around quickly, giving her more exaggerated features lets you read that emotion much quicker. So it was a decision that we'd made early on after doing some tests in game of different types of faces that we wanted to do.